Welcome to this video. I'm going to show you how to do the analysis for the friction experiment we conducted in class. The previous video and the work we did in the lab showed you how to create this data table right here. In addition to the raw data, this is all the raw data you collected, you reproduce it in Excel using the help of the last video. Then you're going to need to calculate the normal force, the average max static friction force, and the average kinetic force. For this average, we're going to be averaging together the three trial values, and that goes right there. And then for the kinetic friction average, we're going to average these values together. The normal force is how hard the block was being pushed upward perpendicularly by the surface. First thing, we want this to be merged together, so I click the Merge and Center button right here. Let's move the magnifier. Click the this Merge and Center button right here, and they merge and center. I highlight those two cells, merge and center. I click and drag to highlight those two, merge and center. When I click to drag, I want the white cross icon. The normal force. We want to calculate this. We tell Excel, calculate something by plugging an equal sign into the cell. So the first thing you hit is equals. The normal force, in this case, is going to be balancing the force of gravity. So it's just m times g. And I click on the cell rather than plugging 214. So instead of doing 214.5 times 9.8, I simply click on the cell. Here it is, times 9.8. Here's the thing though, we want our mass in kilograms when we multiply by 9.8. It's kilograms times the 9.8 meters per second squared. And right now the mass is not in kilograms, right now it's in grams. So the way you convert from grams to kilograms is you divide by 1,000, by 10 to the 3. So that's what this equation now shows. The mass before times 9.8 over 1,000. You hit enter, and then you get that black cross icon, not the white one like that, but the thinner black cross icon, and you click and drag all the way down. Okay. I'm going to clear my borders, no borders, and then add the outside border. Okay, for average max static friction force, I need to take the average of these three things right here. So there's two ways to do it. You do open parentheses, trial 1 plus trial 2 plus trial 3, close parentheses, that's the numerator, you divide by 3, and you hit enter. You can do that and drag it down, or what you can do is you can just say, instead you could do equals, type the word average, open parentheses, you click and highlight all three cells at once, all together, then you close your parentheses and hit enter. Those two things perform the same calculation, and then when I click and drag down, I have the same values. And I want to clear the border, give an outside border, and center my values here. For average kinetic friction, I do equals, average, and I'm averaging together the three kinetic friction trials. So here are the three values of kinetic friction, which I obtained when repeating the same experiment 3 times, the same trial 3 times in a row. And then I click and drag, or you can do Control C to copy and then Control V to paste in the cells below. A few ways to get that clicking and dragging thing to happen. Then you center, let's give it some nice looking borders, no borders, outside borders. The next thing that we need is two graphs. You go to Insert, the Insert tab. You want to, Excel calls graphs charts. I like to think of them as graphs rather than charts. You click that one with the dots. That brings up the scatter plot options, and you choose the very top left one with no lines at all. If you're lucky like me, your graph will be blank from the get-go. If you've got stuff in the graph, then I'll show you what to do. If you have stuff in the graph, it's probably because some stuff was selected, like some of the cells were selected, and then, oh, now there's stuff in my graph. Right-click, either way, whether there is or isn't data pre-filled, right-click and choose Select Data. So the Select Data button is about halfway down when you right-click. You click and highlight, and you click the series on the left side, then you click the Remove button, then you click again, remove, click again, remove. Then we're going to add a new series, so you click the Add button, this Add button right here on the left. For the x values, you want the normal force. We're going to put normal force on the x-axis. For the y values, we're going to put average max static friction. And then you hit OK. Right. So the way I got the x and y values, I clicked right here, and then I clicked on my graph, and I just highlighted the normal force. Then I clicked right here, I deleted the 1, and I clicked on my graph and dragged so that I had highlighted just the values of max static friction. Make sure that your values don't have any numbers beside them, or Excel won't know that they're values. Excel will think that they're letters. So let me make sure, and then you hit OK, you hit OK. Let me make that a little clearer. If you have, like, right here, if you have G for grams, then now, Excel doesn't know what to do because it thinks that this is all, it doesn't see the number anymore. All it sees is the G, and so it can't perform a calculation. So you cannot have anything except for numbers in these cells, which means you cannot have specifically any letters, no letters allowed. The chart title, it may not automatically appear. If not, you click the plus, you click chart title, about the third one down, and then you also want to click the axis titles, second one down. If you have this series 1 thing popping up like that, you just click it once, and then you hit delete. Now, the chart title, you need to give your chart a name. Let's call this static friction. For wood block and, what did I have? Corkboard. Or maybe you had sandpaper. Whatever you had, maybe give it that kind of title. The y-axis, what did we put on a y-axis? We put average max static friction. So average max static friction force in newtons. The x-axis, you click once to highlight the text. You click a second time to enter the box, and then you triple click, 1, 2, 3, to highlight all of the text in the box, like that. So 1 click, 2 click, and then triple click. And that was the average, nope, that was the normal force, is what we put on our y-axis, or on our x-axis. Okay. Now, what we see is this graph makes kind of a straight line, and it looks like the straight line will kind of go through the origin 0, 0. To see for sure what the graph's line will look like, you right-click anywhere on the graph, and then you do, let's see, right-click on the data point, rather. You have to right-click on a data point, and then you choose the Add Trendline option, second from bottom. And you want linear to be selected over there. It's automatically selected, so that's all good. You go to the bottom, right, scroll down all the way to the bottom, and click, check the second box, the one that says Display Equation on Chart. You want to select that box, and then an equation pops up. Here's the equation that shows. Now, this equation is in the form y equals mx plus b. So m is the slope, and it's 0.6381. X is the y-intercept, which is that value over on the right, negative 0.0179. We're going to come back to that in a second. First, move that graph over. We need to do the same thing for kinetic friction. See how this is using static friction force? Let's make another graph using normal force on the x and kinetic friction on the y. There's an easy way to make that second graph. You don't have to go through the whole rigmarole once more. You just click over on the white space of your first graph. Don't click here, don't click here, not there, over on the white space in the corner. Click and drag, so I'm dragging my graph around while keeping my mouse clicked. So my mouse is still clicked. I'm also now pushing Control with my left hand, and then I let go of the mouse. I keep Control down the whole time, and then I let go of the mouse. Control is still down, and it creates a copy. So now I can let go of Control. I can click up here. I can just change it to kinetic friction. And if you click on a data point, this is the coolest thing. If you click on a data point, gotta get a data point selected. You see how it shows the purple box and the blue box. The purple box is what's on your x-axis. The blue box is what's on your y-axis. So if you want, you can try and move the blue box over to average kinetic friction force. The way you do it is you have to get the 4 arrow icon, the one seen right now, with arrows pointing in all directions. And once you see that icon, which is at the edge of the blue box, you put your mouse at the edge of the blue box, you click it and you drag it over, and you just move the blue box so it's highlighting the kinetic friction values. And boom, just like that, just by clicking and dragging it over. So that's static, and then I moved it over to kinetic. Now my y-axis is not max static friction, it's average kinetic friction force. Like that. And then my second graph is finished. The line automatically changes when I change what my data is. Right, so the line automatically changes. If I moved it over to here, watch the line, watch what happens to the line. Oh, it changed a lot. Wow. Control Z, undo. What you need to do next is open a Word document. Open a Word document. And all you need is, let's see, you want to make sure you have an MLA heading. MLA, oh, if this happens where you try to type and it doesn't work, hit the person and then come back in and it should work. MLA heading, I like Times New Roman, 12 font. I prefer no line breaks, no spacing between lines. Okay, MLA heading for the graph title, or the paper title, say, Friction Lab Analysis. What you first say is, the following raw data was collected in the lab. And you come back to Excel, you click and you highlight just the raw data. That stuff right there. You copy, right click and copy, or hit Control C, and then you Control V, paste it right there. And then instead, you can leave it like this if you prefer, or you can hit Control and you can paste it as a picture. Where's picture? Picture, there it is. And I like to center, so I hit Control E to center, or you come up here and you hit the center button. Good. Then you say the following data was processed to produce the average kinetic friction force and the average maximum static friction force. And what I do then is I show my processed data, and I click here, I highlight all the way over, hit Control C or do the copy, right click and copy, and then you come back into Word and you right click and paste or Control V, and I'm going to paste as a picture again. Uh-oh, that doesn't look so good, because you see how there's those little those things in the corner. So I'm going to paste again and just leave it like that. I'm going to click up here and then hit Control E to center. Okay. What next? The next thing is I want to show these graphs. So I'm going to copy the graph, right click over here, anywhere on the white space, copy. And then I'm going to put in my Word document. So in my Word document, I'm going to say the graph below, and I'm going to paste my graph. What does it show? It shows how the max static friction force changes based upon the normal force. So as the normal force gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the max static friction got bigger. Oh, excuse me. So I'll say how the max static friction force changes based upon the normal force. And I hit Control V to paste, and I'm going to center. And then the graph below shows how not max static friction, but the next one is how the kinetic friction force. So I'm going to copy how the kinetic friction force changes based upon the normal force. How the kinetic friction force changes based upon the normal force. And I control, yes, like that. And then what you do is you file, save as, choose a folder, browse, and instead of Word document, you click right here, you choose PDF, and you save it, friction lab, and you upload to show